Welcome to another epic Gktech install video. This is Officer Dan and crew ready to lay it on ya. This time we're going to be tackling our S and R chassis front lower control arm spherical bushings. Man, that's a mouthful. Once your beautiful black box has been painstakingly hand shimmied by Zach, crossed the continent via carrier pigeon, and drop kicked to your doorstep by your local delivery guy, you'll see these in the box. You get the main bearings. These bad units will reduce deflection versus the old and boring bushing that's in there now. These also come fitted with a common size bearing that we stock or you can find at any bearing supply house. And finally, you get the inserts that suit the bearings, which will pop in on either side, but more on that in a second. Stop talking, Dan. Let's install these already. Sheesh. First things first, you want to remove the tension rods. Do so by removing the hardware connecting whatever rod you happen to have and whip that sucker out of the way. Head down to the nuck and remove the split pin, then using the ratchet you probably overpaid by 10 or 12 times for, loosen and remove the ball joint nut. Pop the lower control arm out of the nuck and head inside to the nut and bolt shown here, loosen and remove it, then pop that stock LCA out. Now, hovering above the bench, you can marvel at the bushing that is probably a decade older than you. Pay your respects, this thing has endured, and head to a press and press it on out. We suggest using a socket or something of similar size that's strong enough to keep the LCA from crushing, as shown in here. Now with the socket or whatever you put in there in place, start pumping and BOW! That sucker will pop out post-haste. Like anything we press out, get that area cleaned up by first sanding, and then second, making sure it doesn't have COVID by applying your favorite brake cleaner. Once it's CDC approved, head back over to the press and slowly slam that sucker into place. Don't forget that spacer we mentioned earlier so it doesn't pinch. Now is the time to install the ever complicated inserts into your bearings whilst admiring the resurrection of your 30-plus-year-old arm. Head back to the car and slap the LCA in inside first, then the nut and bolt, then thread on said nut. Now's the time to explore the freedom the LCA now has, and man, that thing is more articulate than I am. So go ahead and shake it like a Polaroid picture. Now pop the ball joint back in the knuckle, wind down the nut, tighten and torque to the specs shown on the screen. Put the split pin back in, and bend the safety ears for safety. Plop the tension rod back on the LCA and reinstall the hardware if needed. Then hold the bolts down and tighten and then torque to the specs shown right here on the screen. Since that torque wrench is still in your hands, head inside and torque that nut and bolt to these specs as well. And that's all there is to that. In the immortal words of LMFAO, your arm can wiggle, 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 yeah, like the best of them. Whilst these dudes have been off OEM lower control arms and are both running our Superlock kits, they both share a love for shredded tires. So please go give them a sub for epic content. If you can't install these, have a professional watch these videos so he can do it for you and or reach out to us with any questions. This has been Officer Dan, Johnny Caps, and Slackback Zach coming at you with another Gktech how-to. Peace.